When I moved into the suburban neighborhood of Oak Ridge, I thought it would be a peaceful place for me and my son, Ethan, to start a new chapter in our lives. We were looking for a fresh start after my divorce, and the peaceful, tree-lined streets of this upscale neighborhood seemed like the perfect escape. Ethan, only 10 at the time, was full of energy and had an obsession with growing his hair long, something he had inherited from me. His hair was thick and curly, a natural wild mane that he was proud of. Ethan always wore it loose, often tying it into a messy ponytail when it got too unruly. I had never minded it. In fact, I encouraged his creativity and individuality, hoping it would help him build confidence in himself. But that was before I met Karen. The first encounter with Karen, the HOA president, was civil enough. She knocked on my door one afternoon to welcome us to the neighborhood, offering a stack of HOA guidelines that she insisted we follow. She smiled at me, polite and cordial, but there was something about her gaze that made me uneasy. She looked me over as if sizing me up, but I chalked it up to her being overly enthusiastic about her role in the HOA. I didn't think much of it at the time. After all, I had other things to focus on, like settling in and helping Ethan adjust to his new school. However, I quickly learned that Karen's obsession with rules was more intense than I had initially realized. Not long after that, I started receiving complaints from the HOA about trivial things. Our lawn wasn't mowed to her exact specifications. Our trash cans were out a few minutes earlier than allowed, and the front door paint color was considered outdated. Every little infraction seemed to anger her, and each time, she showed up at my door with a smile that barely concealed her disapproval. But it wasn't until one hot summer day that things took a turn. Ethan had been playing outside with his friends in the yard when Karen appeared again, her eyes immediately locking onto Ethan's long hair. She approached with a tight-lipped smile. "Excuse me," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "I noticed your son's hair is quite unruly. It doesn't really fit the image of this neighborhood, does it?" I stared at her, unsure if I'd heard her correctly. "I'm sorry, what do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Karen stepped closer to me, her eyes flicking to Ethan's hair as if it was some kind of personal offense. "It's just that in this community we pride ourselves on a certain appearance, a certain level of class. A child with hair like that doesn't quite fit the standards we uphold around here." My heart pounded in my chest. My mind raced with thoughts of defending my son, but I took a deep breath to calm myself. My son's hair is just fine the way it is. He likes it that way, and I support him. Karen's eyes narrowed. "Well, it's not just about what he likes. It's about what's appropriate. Perhaps you should consider getting it trimmed. A neat, well-kept appearance is important. We wouldn't want to be seen as unrefined." I was stunned. I couldn't believe the audacity of this woman. I made a mental note to go over the HOA rules again because, as far as I knew, there was nothing in those guidelines that had anything to do with my son's hair. As I prepared to close the door on her, Karen didn't leave immediately. She gave me one last tight smile and turned on her heel, making sure to say one final comment. "You'll see, I'm just trying to help." I slammed the door behind her, furious and shaking with anger. It was bad enough that she had tried to impose her ridiculous standards on me, but now she was trying to control how my child looked. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. But things didn't stop there. A few days later, Karen showed up uninvited at our house again. This time, she came directly to the backyard, where Ethan was playing basketball with a few of his friends. I watched from inside the house as she approached, her face twisted in disgust. "Ethan, darling," she said in that insufferable tone, "it's time to fix that mess of hair." Ethan looked confused. "What do you mean, Mrs. Karen?" With a false sweetness in her voice, Karen reached out to touch Ethan's hair. "You need a good trim. You can't go around looking like a wild child. You'll never fit in here if you keep that up." I couldn't take it anymore. I marched outside, furious. "Get your hands off my son," I shouted, my voice sharp. Karen stepped back, surprised, but then her anger flared. "You have no idea how much I've done for this neighborhood. I only want what's best for everyone, especially the children." I was beyond frustrated. "You don't know what's best for my child. I'm his mother, and I'll decide what's best for him. Now, get off my property and leave us alone." Karen stared at me, eyes blazing with fury. She muttered something under her breath as she stormed off, but I didn't care. I turned to Ethan, who had a confused look on his face. "Don't listen to her, buddy. Your hair is perfect, just the way it is." But I knew this wouldn't be the last time I saw Karen. She was relentless, and her obsession with controlling everyone around her was starting to reach new levels. I could only hope that I'd put an end to it for good. Then one afternoon, about a week later, I was sitting on the back porch, drinking iced tea and reading a book, when I noticed something strange through the window. Karen was in the backyard, crouched near the fence, staring at Ethan through the window. I froze in disbelief. She was watching him as he played, her face contorted in a mix of hatred and envy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I grabbed my phone and started recording, hoping to capture what was going on. Karen didn't know I was watching. She didn't know I had caught her in the act. Suddenly, she pulled out a pair of scissors from her purse, her eyes still locked onto Ethan's hair. With a quick, almost frantic motion, she snipped a piece of his hair through the fence. I lost it. I ran outside, my voice shaking with rage. "What the hell are you doing?" Karen's eyes widened in panic, and she dropped the scissors. I was just trying to help. He needs a haircut. You were cutting my son's hair?" I shouted. "You have no right to touch him." I showed her the video, and she paled. I could see the shock and fear in her eyes. She knew she was caught. "Call the police," I said, not even bothering to hide my disgust. "You're not getting away with this." Within the hour, the police arrived, and Karen was escorted off the property. She was charged with vandalism for damaging Ethan's hair and harassment. The HOA got involved, but after seeing the video evidence and hearing from other neighbors about her behavior, they immediately disbanded her position as the president. It didn't end there. We filed a civil lawsuit against Karen for emotional distress and harassment. She ended up moving out of the neighborhood, and I made sure she paid for the therapy sessions Ethan needed to deal with the trauma of having his hair and his sense of safety violated. As for Ethan, he became more confident than ever. He wore his hair as wild and free as he wanted, knowing that no one could take that from him. And as for Karen, she learned the hard way that when you mess with my kid, you regret it.